And it looks like this race start is imminent, and here we go between PrinceBuffoon on your left, FayteFireix on your right.
Good luck, folks. Let's get started. And we start with a piece of heart. It's good to get some health early on in the match. Since this is standard, we do have to start with the opening of the game, so we have to go rescue Princess Zelda and get her out of the escape.
Yep, both these players will be taking a dive into the sewers, and we'll get an idea of what weapon is bestowed by the uncle here in just a few moments.
Hopefully it's something good, and it's vanilla. It's a sword.
It is the sword, which I should have been able to recognize. This when you have a sword seed, that sword is visible both in the opening and with the Uncle Fallen there with the sword there like standard. Also in there is the second piece of heart, so both of our runners now halfway to another full heart container.
Indeed. The only major thing they're looking for now is bombs, because if you have a bomb, you can get access to the back of escape, which gets you 3 extra items.
Absolutely, and with the sword at their disposal, they'll have no difficulty farming to their heart's desire until they find those much desired bombs.
Indeed. And Buffoon has his bomb.
Indeed, that farming using those pots paying off for PrinceBuffoon. We'll see if he's just satisfied with that single bomb or if he decides to farm a little bit further here.
Indeed. Got the small key. That is helpful. The other item you're kind of looking for down here is the map, because once you've found the map, that is the only other dungeon item down here. So then you would know, for example, whether or not you have to open up the chest in the sanctuary. Because if you haven't found the map, that's where it's going to be.
Absolutely. If you're paying attention, realize you don't have the map. That's a handful of seconds that you can save by foregoing that item check. So anyways, we have PrinceBuffoon now in the vanilla boomerang's position and gets a bow from there. So that's a very nice additional weapon in his arsenal, and FayteFireix collecting that now as well. That opens up Eastern Palace, assuming that they find a lamp if they can't do a darkless, or without sight, excuse me.
Indeed, and 9 got a bomb drop, so both Fate and Buffoon have their bombs to do the back of escape. Buffoon opting to try to do the sword strats, and he does it just fine. And Silvers! It's happened again!
So in 2 seeds that I have commentated within the last 24 hours, both players get the bow and silvers within the opening escape chest. That is quite an anomaly, if I do say so myself. I don't know what it is with the seeds I commentate, I suppose, but these guys can thank me later, I guess.
It still doesn't beat the silvers at Link's house bow in the bow on Uncle I saw recently, but that is definitely a very good find to have early on in the game. It will make the Ganon fight so much easier, and a lot of the boss fights a lot easier to deal with.
Vitreous, King Helmasaur, Landmo, all those will fall in very short order with some well-placed silver arrows. So nice to get that in your arsenal so early, and we'll see how these runners use that weapon to their advantage going forward here. We're still just in the 5th minute of play here, and silver arrows already collected. That Ganon's question already answered so soon.
Indeed, all you need is Master Sword, and then Ganon is defeatable. But right now, Buffoon is pushing back the statue at the back of the throne room to get to the back of escape. Fate close at his heels. Yes, for Tracker just got things up. So yes, right now the runners have the bow, the silvers, and the sword, which was on Uncle.
Buffoon using a sword spin slash there to get a few snakes and collecting a bomb for his trouble. So that's a slight advantage Buffoon currently has over FayteFireix. Fate also doing some snake extermination, but not getting that bomb drop. So 1 extra bomb for PrinceBuffoon in the sewers.
And 50 rupees in the darkroom chest, which brings up one of the opening plays I keep wondering what is the best option to do with standard mode is, do you do Houlihan or do you not do Houlihan? Really just depends on the amount of rupees you get to start, but having that extra 225 is nothing to sneeze at.
Absolutely not. I suppose it just depends on how the rupee drops are distributed throughout the scene. We have another 50 rupees and a second set of 50 rupees in the left room there of the sewers along with the map. So the sanctuary chest will be checked here momentarily. So that's a nice 150 rupees out of 3 item spots here in the opening stages of this race.
Indeed, they'll be able to check the bottle vendor no prob, and they'll have enough money to also get some bombs if they elect to do that.
Absolutely. We'll see it. Go ahead.
6 minutes, 2 seconds. PrinceBuffoon rescued Zelda and gets 5 rupees for his efforts.
Now, let's see if this bomb differential causes any sort of routing divergence here in the opening stages. We have a Light World dungeon check. I saw Pod had the green pendant and a regular crystal in Desert Palace. I failed to see what Hera had, though.
It was also a regular crystal. It was number 7, if I recall correctly.
All right, so we have PrinceBuffoon on his way to the Lumberjack Ledge, it appears, and we'll see if we get a tree pool as well from PrinceBuffoon.
We are, and it's 5 rupees.
Prince collecting 15 of those 20 rupees, also killing that enemy there, and we get 8 bombs from the loot spider there. So a very nice little collection there from PrinceBuffoon there. Let's see if FayteFireix follows suit.
Yes, that seems like both are. Oh, he's not gonna know. Well, there is the spider in Lost Woods, and also opting not to check the Lumberjack Ledge, which seemed like it was just a piece of heart, so that in the end turned out to be all right.
I saw a piece of heart as well, and PrinceBuffoon killing yet the other loot spider. FayteFireix did collect 8 bombs, and we have the power glove in the mushroom position, so there is some progression right there off the bat in the Lost Woods.
Indeed, so far so good for our runners. Decent item set they've gotten thus far, and a lot more items in Kakariko to come.
Both runners collecting the 20 rupees there in the Thieves' Hideout. That brings them to just under 200 rupees between the two of them. We'll see what follows here.
And our other assistants, our tracker and our restreamer, did double check, and Tower of Hera is actually a 5/6 crystal.
Okay, so that means we have 2 pendants in the Dark World, so we'll see where those are when they eventually get there, along with what that other 5/6 crystal is that will open up the Fat Fairy locations.
Indeed, and we've got 20 rupees, 100 rupees, 20 rupees, and a full heart container.
No shortage of rupees here in the opening stages. There's only, 47 rupee drops in these items so far, so understandable that a lot of them are being collected early here.
And 1 more piece of hearts. They are 1 piece short of another full heart container. So both of them have made the same routing choice, and both of them have turned out to be pretty good. Turned out to be a rich seed, so Houlihan was definitely not necessary. It would have been a little bit of a time expenditure. And both are making the same moves thus far.
Pretty standard routing thus far. We'll see if there's any divergence after. We have the magic mirror in the back of the well here. Another critical pickup for our runners in the early stages.
As is 10 rupees, the level 1 shield, and a full heart container. So of that, the mirror is definitely the item you want to see.
Absolutely, a very nice convenience to have, and we have a nice profit from the bottle merchant. Very nice investment for once.
Rare that it is, but that is good to see. They now both will have enough money to visit King Zora and get whatever item he has. And the chicken hut has the lamp.
That's a nice weight off their shoulders, knowing that dark rooms will not be necessary here. And FayteFire's saving and quitting after the chicken hut there. That's an interesting diversion.
Okay. Piece of heart in the back of the bar, so that gives a full heart container. So it appears he's doing south of Hyrule.
Yeah, let's pay close attention to these next locations from PrinceBuffoon. Obviously, we'll not be able to get the library without the boots, but we'll see if this information leads to any sort of advantage. Just a piece of heart on the shelf.
Yeah, that's probably going to be staying there all game. Fate remembering to use the mirror glitch and gets 20 rupees and access to the back. And another piece of heart. So for the moment, it seems like Fate made the better play.
Definitely a gamble, but it looks like FayteFire will not be punished for this gamble, and we just have an arrow capacity upgrade there, which FayteFire will go ahead and collect, interestingly enough, and looks like he'll be on his way to the mini Moldorm cave thereafter.
With the having Bow and Silvers 5 minutes into the race, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more arrow pickups if they have the choice.
And our tracker making the astute observation that while FayteFire did access the chicken hut, did not collect the item, which was the lamp. So that is an interesting difference here. FayteFire will be lampless. I'm not sure exactly what prompted that decision, but it will cause FayteFire to be without the lamp until they decide to revisit that chicken hut, if and when they do so.
The thief gives you master, and the book, the full heart container, and some arrows in mini Moldorm cave.
So that certainly brings the tablets into play, with both the level 2 Master Sword and the book in FayteFire's possession. Meanwhile, PrinceBuffoon is just about to collect those 5 locations as well, with a very efficient eradication of those mini Moldorms. And FayteFire now, it looks like, on his way to the Ice Rod Cave.
Indeed. So get that routing in under while you can. The Ice Rod Cave is not the easiest to access location, easiest to add to your routing. So the real question is where to from here. You can full clear Eastern, but it is a pendant dungeon, despite it is being the green pendant. And if he'd bother getting the lamp, but he did get the cane.
That indeed is the Cane of Samaria. We still have yet to see the Dark World location, the crystals revealed, but with 2 pendants in the Dark World, it's highly likely that that Cane of Samaria will be required. So a very nice pickup there for FayteFire. It looks like PrinceBuffoon will be doing the exact same thing.
Indeed. So it looks like Fate might be going to pick up the items he had missed. So I'm not quite sure about that routing choice. Might make note to ask him of that at the end of our match.
Most certainly. That is a curious decision, to say the least. I'll be interested to see his learn of his thought process there, for sure, as he is right back into that chicken hut. Meanwhile, PrinceBuffoon is on his way to Sahasrahla and perhaps Eastern Palace afterwards as well.
Indeed, since he went right back, it might have even just been hit a couple buttons by accident. Brain farts happen to the best of us.
I can certainly empathize with that. Let's see what Sahasrahla has at the back of his hut. We have, in these 3 items, another piece of heart, 5 rupees, and 3 bombs. I certainly have seen better, but good to get that out of the way all the same.
You're holding out on us, Sahasrahla.
Maybe he's requiring a pendant for the good stuff. We shall see.
We might, because Buffoon is making his way to Eastern Palace.
Certainly with the bow and the lamp collected this early, it certainly seems to be, maybe the seed is giving us, implying that, hey, come over to Eastern if you really want to get progression.
Indeed.
While FayteFireix doing a blind check of the race, and we'll find just that piece of heart. Let's see if he decides to go ahead and collect it.
Opting not to. And the big key is in the first chest of Eastern. That is good to find, because if you find the if it turns out one of the non-dungeon items is in that big key chest, it is really good to find it early. Might get to skip the dark rooms if you get those 2 items.
Absolutely. Let's see if the 3 items here are in the next 3 chests here. We have one of them with a red rupee in the eastern chest of Eastern Palace. Meanwhile, FayteFireix making a dive towards the Desert Palace region on the right side of your screen.
Not a bad play. It is something he can clear with a fire source, and well, actually, correct that, because the big key or the small key, which could be hiding the big key, could be on the lamp.
So that's item 2 in Eastern Palace with that yet another 50 rupee hoard for PrinceBuffoon. And we have the Magic Cape in Agnes Cave. This is, I'm getting some strong Agnem signals right now.
Yep. And the final item was in the big key chest, so Prince is free to go and get the Armos Knights.
It looks like he will be collecting that green pendant, maybe turning that right into Sahasrara thereafter. Meanwhile, FayteFireix on his way to Desert Palace with the book in his possession. Let's see if he does a ledge check. I don't believe he did, so he'll be... let's see what Desert Palace has in store along with that ledge.
Indeed. Both are valid plays, but unless Sahasrara has an item, or unless this turns out to be a pedestal seed, seems like at the moment Fate made the better choice, but there's still plenty of time to find out which it was.
And let's see if there is a key or a big key in this first chest for FayteFireix. There is indeed a small key, which opens up the 2 right side locations here. Meanwhile, PrinceBuffoon utilizing those silver arrows with great alacrity there, and down go the Armos Knights before I could even finish the sentence.
That is the beauty of early silvers. And a single rupee as one of the non-dungeon items in Desert.
Looks like PrinceBuffoon is going to turn in this green pendant right away, as FayteFireix also collecting the big key. So it looks like we may have either the second item or a map on the torch, or perhaps even the compass. I believe just the big key is the only dungeon item that's been collected, and just a heart container from Sahasrara. So unfortunately, that green pendant play not paying off as well as PrinceBuffoon likely would have preferred.
Indeed, unless there's an important item on pedestal that was a little bit of a time sink. And Fate still not checking the lamp. Instead, opting to check the big key chest, which is just going to be 5-hour upgrade.
So that is Desert Palace, the items at least, effectively cleared. We'll see if FayteFireix goes ahead and takes care of Landless. He does have a glove upgrade and a fire source, so that is open for him at this moment.
And Silvers will also make quick work of the Landmo if you can get the shots off. Meanwhile, Buffoon is opting to go up to Death Mountain, which is, since Tower of Hera is a crystal dungeon, is also a pretty good play.
And we do have the Pegasus boots on the ledge, so very fortunate actually that there was not an item there on the torch, as FayteFireix did not have the knowledge of those boots prior. So FayteFireix will take those boots and dash his way onto Landmo.
Indeed. Meanwhile, Prince is doing the other escort mission of the game.
And the FayteFireix making an interesting retreat there, perhaps setting up a key dash and going a little bit too further south than he needed to. But in any case, we have PrinceBuffoon getting a heart container from the old man.
And that time, Fate's able to execute the key dash. And we'll continue on into Desert.
Key dashing is where you set yourself up to where you are on one of 4 pixels that allow you to both activate the key and dash through without getting a bonk.
Spectacle Rock has ether on top of it, and I will personally have to double check the restream to see what was inside. I'm presuming it was nothing of import, considering Buffoon is not going for it.
I would agree. I think it was something of a red color, if I remember correctly, but I did not get a good eye on it either.
It was a full heart container.
Very good, and we have FayteFireix on his way to Lambo. Meanwhile, PrinceBuffoon is utilizing his Master Sword and Book to get that Ether Medallion. Or Ether Tablet, rather, and it is just 3 bombs.
Worth it to remember. Meanwhile, Fate, again, quick work. And just given the map and the crystal for his troubles.
It was the first crystal of this race at the 22nd minute of play for FayteFireix. PrinceBuffoon likely following suit here in the Tower of Hera. Just a map there in the initial location there. Let's see what what key is in this chest.
Big, and is the big key. Good for him.
So for right now, the basement not in play. Depending on how the 2 non-dungeon items are distributed, we may see a basement dive or not. We'll just have to see where these items are placed.
Meanwhile, Fate is heading up to Death Mountain, I presume, after checking the bonk rocks next to the Sanctuary. 1 item down here. And the Titan's Mitts.
And that is the Titan's Mitts, which are blocked by Desert Palace. So let's see how quickly PrinceBuffoon routes in a Desert Palace check, because that is going to lead him straight to Titan's Mitts, assuming he follows suit and checks those bonk rocks after he gets his boots.
Indeed. Fate opting to continue up to Death Mountain rather than checking the Dark World. Meanwhile, Buffoon is just about to his Landmo fight. Landmo. Moldrum fight.
Yeah, wiggly snake thing, easily to get them confused.
Hopefully he's not too trolly tonight.
There's spin/1 from Buffoon. There's 2.
3, but now we've got speedy Moldorm.
Oh, and PrinceBuffoon, despite his best efforts, will take a little bit of a dive there and have to start from square one here.
It always hurts to see.
That last spin/registering as a poke, making a huge difference here, and getting denied from Moldorm, trolling in every way possible, typical of this thing.
You can believe a Moogle will fly. Meanwhile, looks like we might be getting a basement check if I counted my items correctly.
I believe that is correct. I'll see if PrinceBuffoon will be able to collect that basement key with his lamp. And I can only imagine that he'll be following downstairs here momentarily.
Indeed.
So very similar routing at the moment between our 2 runners. However, the key difference here being FayteFireix having checked a Desert Palace, which netted him the boots, which led him directly to the Titan's Mitts. So that is, at the moment here, the key difference between these 2 runners, and also PrinceBuffoon getting Eastern Palace out of the way. However, to not the results he was looking for. So that we'll see if FayteFireix makes an Eastern Palace dive. If not, that may be an advantage that he will have over Prince.
Indeed. This chat is helpfully reminding me we are still missing one thing for Dark World access, and it is the most important item because it is the Moon Pearl, which could be on the east side of Death Mountain, although we are missing the hammer at the moment and the hookshot. Or could be down here, or could be on the pyramid.
Zora is still a potential as well, although without the flippers, it is quite a hike to get there. But that is still potentially in play, and they both have the funds to cover the donation to Zora. But we'll see if our runners decide to check that, or if they just go make a play for Agnem ahead of time. But we have PrinceBuffoon heading south once again. Meanwhile, FayteFireix trying to execute a bomb jump to get this big key chest location,
and pulls it off.
Looks like PrinceBuffoon is making the play towards Desert Palace, and he'll be quite pleased with what he finds there. With the boots in and of themselves, little does he know that those boots will lead directly to the Titan's mitts.
Indeed. Meanwhile, Fate is taking his attempt at Moldorm. Oh no!
Down goes FayteFireix, and looks like a double dive as well. Very unfortunate. That'll just add even more time to this fall. I can only empathize. I've certainly had that happen to me quite a number of times.
Ouch. Meanwhile, Buffoon is making his trek inside.
FayteFireix collecting some health insurance before his rematch with Moldorm. And Buffoon, appears he must have gotten a peek of what was on the ledge, because he is heading straight for it.
Indeed. Oh no, and the spin splash knocks Fate out for a second time.
Fate not getting the 3 spin slashes, so that made a very angry Moldorm, which led to a knockdown right at the final hit there. That hurts a lot.
Oh, and he just barely avoided another trek down this middle hole. Come on, Fate, you got this.
Indeed he does. Down goes, third time's the charm for Fate. Moldorm is down. That is the second crystal rather for Fate after about 28 minutes, and Fate will move on. Let's see where he goes next, seeing that he has already followed the steps that PrinceBuffoon has. FayteFireix will be blazing new trails here in this seed.
Indeed, unless he opts to pendant Eastern, which right now he's going to take his break downstairs and be not wholly disappointed, since it's quite a big rupee, but still probably would rather be seeing that Moon Pearl right about now.
Absolutely. That's the one thing that's really roadblocking our runners at this point. And it's still in doubt where that Moon Pearl is at this point. It could be on the pyramid. Our tracker making the astute observation that Checkerboard Cave Moon Pearl is also a possibility. So that would really stretch the imaginations of our runners here. That is an out-of-the-way location that can occur, since once you have Titan's Mitts and the Mirror, even without the Moon Pearl, you can still access that with some bunny walking there in the Mire region.
Never thought of it that way, but I suppose that is definitely true. Well, we will shortly see what Fate's plan is, because he is about to get his item. There we go. Opting to head out.
King's Tomb, also a potential location as well, noted by our chat as well. So any number of possible slightly trolly locations. It's just a matter of which one is it at this point.
It is fair.
So Fate may be on his way to Eastern Palace.
That is where he's going. I must admit, I am a little surprised we haven't seen a fake flipper yet, considering this item set. But it would be out of logic, so...
It would, and usually when, at least in my runs, without the Moon Pearl, the fake flipper is not as attractive of a sequence break, but certainly that is something that they could employ if they chose to do so.
Well, with Buffoon having already done all 3 Light World dungeons, we will really get to see which comes next.
Yep, Buffoon equalizing the crystal count here at 2 apiece, and now checking Agnes Cave.
Gonna get that cape, which is not an unwelcome sight, but again, not exactly what you're looking for right now. Little frustration slash before that save and quit. And as Fate proceeds into Eastern, Prince is going to be checking out the Bonk Rocks.
And will be subsequently rewarded with the Titan's Mitts as well. Very nice for PrinceBuffoon to equalize the gloves as soon as he possibly could there. Let's see where he goes now. So he's heading eastbound, perhaps a King's Tomb check now that he has the ability to access it.
That is where we are headed.
And a very nice use of the ability to get that open without dashing into it and just getting a piece of heart for that obscure check. And so that crosses off King's Tomb on our list of possibilities for this elusive pearl.
Indeed, he was thinking for a moment before he decided his starting point. And still thinking.
Looks like we might be seeing a fake flipper from PrinceBuffoon.
Indeed. And with Titans, you can get to King Zora through the normal means without the flippers. It's just this will get you a little bit faster. And if he checks like Hylia, we'll also give him a little more information.
Buffoon needs to move 1 pixel to the left, it appears, to get this set up. And there he goes.
Yep. And he is going to check Lake Hylia Island, which is a bomb upgrade. That will probably stay there. And opting to check the hobo. It's a little bit harder to get the screen transition to fake flipper out of hobo, but it's not entirely impossible.
Absolutely. We have PrinceBuffoon getting out of the water and meeting up with the hobo, and he provides not a bottle, but some bombs.
Womp womp.
And very nice from PrinceBuffoon, immediately getting that fake flipper resumption there in one go.
So let's see. The only thing he will be able to check is King Zora. Without the Moon Pearl, you're not able to do the glitch that will let you do the Waterfall Cave.
Yes, he will be able to identify what's on Zora's ledge, but without the flippers, will not have the means to collect them as of this time. But he will get at least the knowledge of what lies there.
Indeed. And got pushed out of the water, but luckily in a fashion such that he landed on a landable spot and didn't get glitched. And a mail upgrade on the Zora ledge.
Prince may want to mentally file that away in case he needs some additional safety at some point later in this race after he collects his flippers. But in the meantime, he is making a beeline for King Zora. Let's see if King Zora has been hoarding this Moon Pearl from our runners.
We shall see. And your prize is a very small return on investment.
That's a 4% refund on that 500 rupees. So that leaves us with practically the Checkerboard Cave or potentially the Dark World Pyramid.
Yep, and I think Buffoon has come to the realization that without that flute,
yep,
it's Aga time.
It's like those Agnum senses that were tingling with that Magic Cape reveal were true. We'll see. We have a Aga 1 will be in play here for our runners.
Meanwhile, Fate is going towards disappointment. And Prince is going up to Aga.
So despite the early returns from this seed, it looks like the seed decided to do a complete 180 and require Agnum right from the get-go here. So hopefully that Moon Pearl will reveal itself there shortly after defeating Agnum and getting transported to the pyramid.
So a pedestal seed is still in play, but we do have an Agnum seed. Hope you're happy, chat.
Yes, hopefully the chat's bloodlust will be temporarily quelled.
One can hope, one can hope.
That's Twitch chat. We know that isn't true.
But we wouldn't be here without you folks, and we also...
Absolutely not. We love you all.
Also make sure to give our runners a follow for their troubles. They're certainly putting on a good show thus far.
Absolutely. These runners practically in lockstep with each other. PrinceBuffoon just a little bit ahead as far as getting everything completed, but FayteFireix will likely be right behind as soon as he gets the word from King Zora that the Moon Pearl is not in its possession.
And Prince wisely opting to not bother doing Master Sword strats on these tougher knights and opting to just do silvers.
Ooh, FayteFireix just avoiding getting hit there prior to getting out of the fake flipper state and is down to 2.5 hearts, but should have no trouble navigating his way to Zora to get his 4% rebate.
Indeed.
Yep, it may not be the Moon Pearl necessarily, as Chad is pointing out, any number of iterations where it may be not the Moon Pearl, but some level of progression must be on this pyramid ledge. We'd like to see the Moon Pearl to get it over with, but it could just be one other step to that Moon Pearl, but it's got to be some level of progression regardless.
And some of our viewers are getting in their blue ball guesstimates.
Ooh, PrinceBuffoon trying to orient himself to where he would get Agnum hit to the center, but in the meanwhile missing that first shot.
And right now we are at 2 fireballs to 1 blue ball, and now we're at 2 and 2. Meanwhile, Fate got his disappointment and is right behind Prince at the moment.
And that's the 3rd blue ball. No shortage of them from Agnum so far.
Wow, it is going to be a 3-cycle fight at least.
Just in case anyone is not aware, the blue ball count is fixed. Neither runner will have any sort of difference in the blue ball distribution, if you will. It's just a matter of if you miss a fireball rebound, you may get some extra blue balls, but it'll be the exact same sequence of attacks from Aghanim in this seed.
And down he goes. And Mog doing a little Moogle dance alongside Aghanim. And what does the pyramid hide? It is the pearl!
Shout outs to the sprite work with the bunny being, looks like Terra. Very nice little bonus there from this sprite. So with this pearl, PrinceBuffoon now, or Celis, excuse me, my Final Fantasy VI knowledge, or lack thereof, clearly showing itself there.
We'll forgive you this time.
Yeah. Won't happen again, I swear.
You're all good. And I did double check the system. Fate's sprite is called Will, but I still do not recognize what game Will is from.
Maybe the chat can fill us in on that one. I do believe PrinceBuffoon defeated Aghanim in around 39 minutes and 40 seconds, so we'll see if we can compare that with FayteFireix to get an idea of the time difference, at least as far as their Aghanim kills are concerned.
Meanwhile, we get our first Dark World check, and Mire and Skull Woods are our other pendants, and Swamp Palace is our other 5/6 crystal.
So that leaves just one medallion being definitively required for Go mode, but depending on how trolly the seed decides to be, it may be an additional medallion needed as well.
That also means we are going to have to find flippers, we're going to have to find both rods.
Indeed we are, and PrinceBuffoon will continue his pillaging of the village of Outcast, while FayteFireix is just a couple of screen transitions away from starting his Aghanim fight.
Indeed, and tempered in the bombable hut.
Very nice find there. As for PrinceBuffoon, they will be certainly content with just that sword. A gold sword would be nice, but that upgrade from Master to Tempered is huge.
Indeed it is, and a piece of heart in C-shaped hut. So, barring any falls, Ganon should be a lot easier fight than he can be. Well, looks like Prince is headed towards the digging game. Meanwhile, Fate is making his way against Aghanim.
And let's see how many digs, and it can be anywhere between 1 and 30 digs to reveal the item, whatever may be buried here. Meanwhile, FayteFireix is well on his way to getting rid of Aghanim after that considerable amount of blue balls, and it's just a piece of heart for the digging game, which PrinceBuffoon elects to go ahead and leave where it is.
And only 13 digs, that's not too bad. Not opting to do a south of Hyrule Dark World check, instead opting to get Jeremiah and taking him back home.
Yep, without the hammer, this will leave the hammer pegs as unchecked. So hopefully PrinceBuffoon will make a mental note of that in case there is something relevant there. Obviously, he has no means of getting those pegs pounded down in the moment. But we'll go ahead and reunite the blacksmiths here, and let's see how they decide to reward PrinceBuffoon's kindness.
Indeed, and at 43:30, Fate hits the Dark World and will soon be rewarded for his efforts. And you don't get too much of a reward from the Smiths today. Single rupee for freeing him from his prison across time and space.
So with that, the purple chest is now unlocked, and PrinceBuffoon will be collecting that and taking a stroll down the southern Dark World locations, and will likely be collecting all the locations on the way to turning in that purple chest, likely a hype cave check as well.
Indeed. Meanwhile, the south of Grove Cave just has bombs, so that ain't getting picked up.
Yep, just 3 bombs in the cave formerly known as 45. We should be seeing a Stumpy check here momentarily from PrinceBuffoon. Meanwhile, FayteFireix is going straight back to the Sanctuary, and looks like he'll be warping to the Village of Outcasts as well here, getting a Mirror Shield from Stumpy. So that's all 3 shields collected for PrinceBuffoon. PrinceBuffoon ready for any sort of riot that may be occurring here in the Dark World.
And since we know that Turtle Rock is required, if it isn't go-moded and you have to take the laser bridge, that is a very welcome thing to have.
So PrinceBuffoon will be turning in this purple chest shield. Let's see if he also threads in a Bombos tablet check as well, and getting just 20 rupees. Man, it's hard to get good compensation for your help these days.
Yes, these fetch quests are not very lucrative today.
Meanwhile, the chess game getting another 20 rupees over on FayteFire's side, and we are going to get a Bombos tablet check from Buffoon here. Let's see what decides to rain from the heavens. And it is just another capacity upgrade.
Neither tablet being that worthwhile, but worthwhile to get it off of your list of things to check.
Yep. Meanwhile, FayteFireix collecting his Tempered Sword, and he'll be thankful to get that out of the way. PrinceBuffoon electing not to check Hype Cave, instead warping to the Sanctuary. It looks like he'll be heading back to the Village of Outcasts. Maybe a Thieves Town check, or checking the northern Dark World locations. We'll see where he decides to go with this.
Could be. With that cape, Bumper Cave is definitely checkable. Meanwhile, Fate opting to do Thieves Town.
Now, without the hammer, there is a possibility that there will be an item left behind, depending on how these items are distributed. We'll see what the first 4 chests have in store here. It looks like PrinceBuffoon right on FayteFire's heels, entering Thieves Town as well.
Indeed, the first item is of the non-dungeon items found. It's just $20, and we found the compass. So right now we're at 1 and 1 of 8 items.
And in case anyone was curious, there's only 28 red rupees available out of the item pool, so definitely no shortage of those being collected by our runners.
There certainly is not. Chest 3 is the big key. It's guaranteed to be one of these front 4, so you can, get to the back half of Thieves Town.
And yet another one of those 28 red rupees there for FayteFireix in item number 4. Now, PrinceBuffoon's health is low. I'm not sure if he's setting up a death warp here. He wouldn't need to with the mirror in his possession. We'll see if he proceeds. It looks like he is, although with very little health to spare. So we'll see if PrinceBuffoon can navigate his way through this dungeon. Now on just 1 heart, though, so he has to exercise extreme caution.
Indeed, there is that 1 heart in the very back, but there is also that red up. And still not getting it, though. He's living dangerously.
Yep. Maybe with the consideration that a lot of these enemies do 2 hearts of damage, but it would be nice to get that second heart in the hopes of getting another heart to give yourself a little bit more wiggle room. But PrinceBuffoon living on the edge here, going through the Thieves Town Hellway.
And making it through, thanks to that cape. That is the one problem with mail upgrade being on the Zora ledge. They might not go back there unless they're really desperate for that extra protection.
Absolutely. Our runners basically in sync with each other right now. PrinceBuffoon just a little bit ahead, but these runners more or less right in line with each other. And PrinceBuffoon getting a critical heart from that lizard, FayteFireix as well. And we'll see what more this dungeon has in store here.
Yes, it was a bomb capacity upgrade from, was it? Yeah, capacity upgrade from the chest. So right now, only 1 more chest has a non-dungeon item.
We'll see if the blind cell has a small key. The last item or the last remaining dungeon-specific item, which I believe would be the map for our runners here at this point. PrinceBuffoon again down to 1 heart, and he is about to enter a room with a lot of enemies here, so we need to be very careful. PrinceBuffoon leaving nothing to chance here, dispatching of these enemies.
Yep, luckily got some hearts and small key, so for their sake, they better hope that Blind has the final item, or they're going to be double dipping Thieves Town.
Yeah, we'll see if Blind has the burrito or the last item. If he does indeed have that snack, it will mean that the last item in this dungeon will be in that dungeon, which is hammer locked. So we have PrinceBuffoon starting the blind fight, increasing his health to 5, so let's see if that is sufficient health for him to complete this fight. Doing a nice phase 1.
Indeed, and Fate on his heels. Only taken 1 heart of damage through phase 2 thus far. And didn't even need safety strats with the cape. Blind goes down, and your prize is the Bombos medallion.
That's 2 of the 3 medallions in our runner's possession at this time, and that also means that Thieves Town is done. No need for a double dip, no need to get that hammer at this point, at least for the case of Thieves Town, at least.
Meanwhile, Fate is getting bodied a little bit, but he is in phase 3, and the cape straps do help him save the day and beat Blind.
Meanwhile, PrinceBuffoon retracing his steps down to the southern Dark World. Perhaps now he'll be taking a look and seeing how hyped this cave is in this seed.
Yep, that's where he's going. He's just taking the... I don't know if I'd call it the long way around, but it is one route you can take. Meanwhile, it looks like Fate is opting to check Skullwoods. Meanwhile, Hype Cave is just 20 rupees, full heart container, 50 rupees, 10 bombs, and 10 arrows. Hype Cave, not hype.
Not living up to that name so much this seed. Maybe next time. We'll see. Meanwhile, FayteFireix is now entering Skull Woods here, opting to tightrope walk across that pit and getting a compass in that location. Let's see if he that's all he can do without a key. Let's see if he drops down in the this hole here to the southwest. He certainly does. And let's see if any of the 2 items in this dungeon may be found there.
Meanwhile, Prince is opting to take a pod check.
With the bow and the lamp, I can certainly understand this this logic here. Without the hammer, will not be able to fully clear the dungeon, but at the very least, all the items outside of what King Helmasaur may be holding is at PrinceBuffoon's fingertips here.
Meanwhile, Fate has had enough of Skull Woods and is just making his leave. Probably gonna potentially check Bumper Cave, which looks like that's what he's doing. And Bumper just has a full heart container, so he is appearing to avoid that.
It looks like FayteFireix is mirroring here and going to go ahead and collect that piece of heart from the Lumberjack pledge.
If I recall, I don't think he checked it, so I think this is blind. But regardless, not too bad to have. Meanwhile, Prince finds the big key.
And without collecting a key in that chest, we'll have to just collect this particular chest without collecting the vanilla big key chest. We'll see if he can skip that, or if that will indeed be an item that he'll need to retreat and collect at some point.
Hopefully not, but we shall see. And opting to use the boots to dash his way through the wall rather than bomb it. same as this one.
Second graveyard ledge upcoming for FayteFire.
And the mushroom. And another small key. Mirror.
So I believe that is the first of the 5 items offered from Pod, and we'll need to see if one of those 5 is in the King Helmasaur's hands, or if it'll just be a dungeon item from King Helmasaur. At this point, that would be the only thing that PrinceBuffoon would not have the ability to collect in this initial visit.
Meanwhile, the graveyard ledge is a very disappointing 5 rupees. And speaking of disappointment, Fate is going into King's Tomb and just getting that piece of heart.
And yet another one of the 6 small keys in Pod collected there from PrinceBuffoon. Let's see what's in the blue rupee room. We have yet another one of the keys and a 20 rupee drop. So that's 2 of the 5 items collected thus far for PrinceBuffoon.
Indeed. Going to check Harmless Hellway. And for his troubles, he's going to get the map.
So that's the big key and the map collected from PrinceBuffoon. So the only way that there will not be an item from King Helmasaur is if Helmasaur has that compass. So let's see what we have in the maze here for PrinceBuffoon. Luckily, not having to navigate that in the dark with that early lamp collection.
Indeed, another item, but only 20 rupees. And another 20 rupees. Meanwhile, Fate about to be disappointed for being heroic and saving the dwarf.
And that rounds out our medallions, with the Quake medallion being collected from PrinceBuffoon. And that also, I believe, rounds out the items in Pod as well. So while the dungeon still remains undefeated as far as the Guardian is concerned, I believe all of the items that would be contained in Pod are now in PrinceBuffoon's possession.
Indeed. Prince maybe forgetting he doesn't have a lamp. He tried to set up the dash strat. Unfortunately, it didn't pull off. Looks like he is going to be going up to check Catfish.
Certainly appears that way. So despite getting that Dark World access, our runners are still lacking such luxury items like the hook shot and the hammer to aid their Dark World navigation. So it's now with the mushroom, PrinceBuffoon is wisely mirroring here so he can get that turned in on his way to Catfish. Very nice routing from PrinceBuffoon.
Indeed. Meanwhile, Fate tried to see if he could convince the digging game owner that he didn't have a follower by leaving the chest on another screen, but the follower wasn't fooled, and we have the hammer.
There is one of those sought-after items for Dark World navigation collected by PrinceBuffoon. So the drug's paying off with a nice hammer for their application at the Witch's Hut.
And with not having gone to Pod yet, this might be a helpful thing for Prince, because now we can full clear it, and it is a crystal dungeon.
Prince may be regretting not doing this before the Pod dive, as he would have been able to do it all in one go, but all the same, now going to check Catfish.
Indeed. And what does the friendly Catfish have today? A not-so-friendly 10 rupees.
While FayteFire taking an unfortunate death on his way to the Hype Cave there. That guard not having any bit of FayteFire trying to lift that stone. So we have PrinceBuffoon now warping back to Death Mountain. Let's see, perhaps with that hammer now realizing he has Eastern Death Mountain access and will make immediate use of that knowledge.
Indeed. quite a bit of items he'll be able to get on East Death Mountain.
Ooh, FayteFireix losing the purple chest there by warping without it having it in tow.
Oh no. And the worst part is we have the foreknowledge that it is not worth it to bother doing the purple chest. So even if he does leave that, it's certainly time suspended. And speaking of time problems, Prince ends up having to waste a few minutes dealing with the dreaded squirrel.
Yeah, that squirrel cares not for your speed run whatsoever. We do see a blue rupee there in the island in the sky, so the floating island will definitely be ignored for the remainder here. Looks like PrinceBuffoon is going to go ahead and activate the Turtle Rock Warp, and we'll get a clear view of what the medallion required here. Looks like for getting the order that those pegs need to be hit, and is going to go ahead and move on from there.
Indeed. Opting to do spiral first. Okay.
Yep, that I can definitely foresee him potentially once getting Spiral Cave going and getting that Dark World Warp, and maybe strategically placing a portal in the entrance of the Paradox Cave and the Super Bunny Cave. But just a bomb capacity upgrade at Spiral.
Not a bad idea. Certainly not a bad idea at all. Sadly for Fate, it looks like he is going to persist in doing the purple chest. Or not.
And so let's see what the Paradox... Oh, going to do the digging game.
Which that was just a piece of heart.
So in the first room of East Death Mountain, we have just a pair of quiver upgrades for PrinceBuffoon. Let's see if the 5 chests here offer a little bit more appetizing rewards, such as a hook shot, maybe.
And we've got piece of heart, 20 rupees, flippers, full heart container, and red ring. Pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. The flipper's definitely going to be a necessary item with the red crystal being at Swamp. Now, the hook shot is still necessary in order to fully clear Swamp, but brings them one item closer to having that be in the cards.
Meanwhile, Prince tried to set up the bomb jump and took an accidental fall. Seems like second time will be the charm, and it is. Meanwhile, Fate's doing second time with the charm for the purple chest.
Yep, and with a lot more health to his name, should have no difficulty fully navigating his way to getting that turned in, as well as getting Hype Cave revealed as well. It looks like PrinceBuffoon going to give another go at this Turtle Rock Warp.
Right top center. There you go. Happens to the best of us.
Absolutely, and it is Bombos medallion's not an issue for Prince, and it looks like he's going to go ahead and open up Turtle Rock. I would not advise that he go much further, although he could check at least one location in Turtle Rock if he wanted to go ahead and get that out of the way.
Indeed. Meanwhile, Fate cracking open the chest and getting 20 rupees for his troubles. And about to go into the Bombo's tablet and also finding disappointment.
So let's see if PrinceBuffoon bonks his way to at least one of those hookshot cave locations. It appears he is doing just that, evading that blue jelly. And let's see what this location has. It is just a red rupee.
Excellent execution, but sadly not much going. Meanwhile, he's about to check Super Bunny Cave.
Let's see if he also takes this opportunity to give a Spike Cave a peek, since he does have the magic cape in his possession now. Not a lot of magic, but he may be able to have sufficient to give that a peek if he so chooses. We get a shovel and another red rupee, and it looks like he will be saving quitting, leaving Spike Cave unknown at this time.
Indeed. Meanwhile, Fate is going to check the not so hype cave.
Yes, hype and name only, at least as far as this seed is concerned. And it looks like PrinceBuffoon, is he going to give Pod? No, it looks like he is going to move his way towards the... Oh, yes, he is indeed going to re-enter Pod and get that done once and for all and get that crystal collected.
Indeed. And since he didn't do Pod, he will be able to full clear it in one shot, whereas Fate will have to double dip. Well, Fate taking a quick dip into the light world to be able to get to that section of the dark.
Actually, it does appear PrinceBuffoon is double dipping as Pod was open for him, so it looks like he's just going to make a beeline for King Helmasaur. Meanwhile, FayteFireix looks like he will be entering Pod for the first time here momentarily, right behind PrinceBuffoon.
Yep. My apologies, I got my runners mixed up there for a moment.
No apologies necessary. This is quite a feat trying to keep both of these runners straight with each other, as they're both making very similar moves with each other here. PrinceBuffoon having a slight lead here over FayteFireix. FayteFireix just about to pay off Kiki the Monkey here to get his Pod access, while PrinceBuffoon is just manipulating those gorillas to proceed on towards King Helmasaur.
Indeed.
And while FayteFireix enters Pod, and while PrinceBuffoon is watching that wall inch its way to the right, I would invite anyone watching to go ahead and give either of these runners a follow. Both of these runners exhibiting very nice skill here and would definitely be worthy of a click of that follow button for either of their streams. So meanwhile, we have PrinceBuffoon now just a couple of rooms away from his King Helmasaur fight, and with that lamp, we'll have no trouble executing the defeat of these turtles.
And our tracker Hitaka helpfully reminding me that this is a forced double dip, because this is where you find the mushroom, and the mushroom is what gives you the hammer.
Indeed it is. Very good observation from our tracker, and thanks again to our tracker Hitaka for doing a very good job in keeping all these items straight between these two runners.
While Buffoon is doing his Helmasaur battle.
And with the Tempered Sword and Silver Arrows, there's any number of options for a quick dispatch of this boss once his headgear has been subsequently removed.
Indeed, opting to use the Tempered Sword and making quick work. And just the compass as we suspected. But a crystal.
And that is crystal number 4 for PrinceBuffoon at the 68th minute of play in this race. Meanwhile, FayteFireix is about to complete the right side of Pod here on his way to getting that necessary mushroom, which will lead him to the hammer. There's the mushroom right there.
Indeed. So now the question is, where do you go from here?
Absolutely. It's really a matter of where is this hook shot? That's the key, a critical item lacking for PrinceBuffoon at this juncture. And it looks like he is on his way potentially to Ice Palace.
Indeed, with a fire source and the hammer, it is full clearable. Oh, good move, opting to check Waterfall Cave, since we now have flippers to check it with.
Absolutely.
And potentially opting to get the blue mail, which would not be a bad play at all.
Especially if you've got a cold stare fight looking at you in the face. It looks like we just have 40 rupees combined between those two waterfall items, so not what we were looking for there. So in any case, PrinceBuffoon is going to move on, and looks like he is going to re-enter that warp, perhaps preparing for an Ice Palace dive, electing not to collect that armor upgrade, deciding that the time spent would not be worth it.
Indeed. Looks like we are going to get an Ice Palace. No, KGB. Both of our runners opted to do the fake flipper glitch, so both of them have already checked Hobo. Hobo just had 5 rupees.
I don't recall exactly. It wasn't anything that would knock your socks off, for sure.
Indeed.
And we'll see if this lack of a hook shot causes any problem for PrinceBuffoon's Ice Palace navigation. We'll see how these keys are distributed within this dungeon. I would not be able to hook shot across that red jelly room if that comes to pass.
Could do the bomb jump. And,
it looks like with that key, that certainly will open up some chest positions where you will not need to hookshot over that. So very nice find there for PrinceBuffoon here in his early Ice Palace exploits.
Indeed. If I recall correctly, you can hover because you have the boots, but I am definitely not an expert with hovering. So do not quote me on that.
Yeah, I am certainly the 30 hertz frequency of mashing that dash button has certainly beyond my abilities at this time. And it looks like PrinceBuffoon nicely getting a 2-for-1 on his Stalfos Knights there with that perfectly placed bomb.
Excellent work. And collecting that small key. And opting to do the bomb jump.
Yep, it looks like he was able to get the switches manipulated with a bomb there prior to his fall and in positioning for the bomb jump. And he is very low on health. He needs to be very careful at this point. Looks like he may be opting to forego the IPPJ, preferring, understandably, to preserve what little health he has remaining.
Indeed. Speaking of preserving health, Fate is doing a rare fairy visit to refill his.
Getting a nice cup of tea from that fairy, and now we'll see now with the IPPJ not done by a prince, if that impacts his Ice Palace without that hook shot. We'll see if that causes him to get roadblocked here.
Indeed. Meanwhile, Fate is instantly going to turn in that mushroom, which will be a very good play. Potentially visiting Catfish, which will not be as good of a play, but he doesn't know that.
And we have the map in the Friesel room, and PrinceBuffoon wisely retreating his steps to utilize this small key to access some of the locations here behind this locked door.
Indeed, good move. And also wisely using the cape to get across. While Fate is probably very happy to see that hammer.
And while he would like to have gotten some potions, neither of these runners have found any bottles yet. So that is certainly impacting PrinceBuffoon at this point, with no means of getting a health refill here. This seed has been rather elusive as far as getting any of those 4 bottles.
Right, it's been a healthy seed, but we've only seen 1 male upgrade in a very difficult to reach spot, and no bottles.
We have the vanilla big key for Ice Palace here, so that will allow PrinceBuffoon to check that. He'll need to use the magic cape once again to preserve his health here.
Meanwhile, Fate is not checking the waterfall cave, and similarly not checking the not going back to get the blue mail.
So I believe we still have yet to see any of the items from Ice Palace, and I think we only have 3 spots left in the Big Key Chest, Cold Stare, and the Iced Tea Room, respectively, if I am following this correctly.
I believe you are, but right now we are going to be seeing what is in the Big Key Chest. And it's $300.
PrinceBuffoon recognizing that he does not have the means of hookshotting over those blocks, so having to bomb the old-fashioned way to that big key location, and PrinceBuffoon going ahead and unlocking the big key door while he was there.
Meanwhile, Fate wisely taking that hammer and going to clear out the rest of Pod.
And very good knowledge from PrinceBuffoon, knowing that there are heart pickups there in those corner pots, and using that to his advantage to get his health at a much more desired point.
Indeed. Meanwhile, item 2 is the single arrow. Bombing it for good measure.
Surprised didn't just immediately throw that single arrow right back on that chest, electing to go ahead and use one of his 24 bombs he had at the time. And it looks like not having the hook shot will not be a factor here, as he'll be just making a beeline for Cold Stare at this point.
Indeed. And Bombos will melt the ice real quick, and Tempered should be pretty good against Cold Stare. The only question is low health and green mail are not fun.
Yep, Cold Stare with just green mail hits like a truck, and seems to be Cold Stare acts when you is attracted to green, much like red is attracted to a bull, as Cold Stare tends to go right for you with your green clothes, at least in my experience anyway. But hopefully PrinceBuffoon will be able to manipulate Cold Stare into the corner and get a good amount of sword swings in before it splits into its 3 parts.
Indeed, and has enough magic that he will be able to use Bombos. Only just.
Ooh, it looks like was not able to corral the Cold Stare, and he is down to just 1 hit. He needs to exercise extreme caution at this point, and down he goes.
Oh, poor Buffoon.
Perhaps PrinceBuffoon may be kicking himself for not taking the time to collect that blue mail offered from Zora's Ledge, and he may be on his way to get that right now.
Indeed. Right now he's saving and quitting.
Yes, and let's see where he decides to go. Going to the Sanctuary here, let's see where he decides to go from there. So that opens the door for FayteFireix. PrinceBuffoon having a decent advantage, and a lot of that is going to be eaten away here with that Death to Cold Stare. If FayteFireix can take care of Cold Stare with a little bit more efficiency, that could open the door and close the gap that PrinceBuffoon has since acquired otherwise.
Meanwhile, it looks like Prince is going to go to the Dark World via Kakariko. And looks like he is going to be further losing that lead by going to be disappointed by Skullwood's check.
Meanwhile, King Helmasaur has been taken care of by FayteFireix over on the right side of your screen, and so that, I believe, equals out the crystal count at 4 apiece, with FayteFireix collecting his 4th crystal out of Pod.
Indeed.
Now, if Cold Stare is hoarding that hook shot, that could be a huge development in this race. It's really going to come down to who finds that hook shot first, I think. That's really going to be a huge matter in the who decides to take this race. And answering the chat, Spike Cave is indeed still live, as PrinceBuffoon had the opportunity to check it, although electing to leave it behind when he traversed Dark World Death Mountain.
Indeed. Fate heading up Death Mountain. Could be doing a Spike Cave check. Could be getting disappointed by the rocks. They show no mercy.
And we have our first bottle of the seed from PrinceBuffoon in Skull Woods. He'll likely be turning that in immediately. Let's see if Sick Kid is holding anything of relative value for our runners.
Indeed. If this turns out to be an important item, Buffoon might be back into a lead.
I believe FayteFireix had checked Skull a little bit, but did not elect to take that deep dive into that statue room, and that might prove costly if Sick Kid is holding something of value here, which we are about to find out.
And just a big 20. And more disappointment by this.
And a bomb right in the face. We don't get to see the results. Buffoon showing us this mercy. This is a family-friendly stream, after all.
He's just a kid, Buffoon. It's in his name.
He gave you his allowance. Isn't that enough? Have some decency, man. Anyways, we do have PrinceBuffoon now hammer dashing his way into the hammer peg location. Let's see if we've got anything here.
And for your efforts, it is a piece of art.
So we have FayteFireix here going ahead and opening up Turtle Rock. Let's see if he dives in and gets at least the one chest available to him. For all we know, that could be what our runners are needing to look for. It would be rather rude, but logically, it could be there. With the Cane of Samari Collective, it looks like FayteFireix electing to forgo that for now, understandably so. Let's see if he... looks like he may be on his way to Spike Cave. Oh, a little bit of indecision, it looks like, and deciding to mirror out. Looks like he needs to check Spiral Cave here.
Meanwhile, Prince...
answering the chat, Buffoon did not finish ice thanks to Cold Stare being a rather difficult boss to defeat with just the green mail on your person.
Indeed, and we haven't seen one mail upgrade is still in the wild. We do know that there is a mail upgrade in the Zora Ledge, which both of our runners know about. Both of our runners, even though they now have flippers, have opted not to get. Meanwhile, Fate about to check Super Bunny Cave.
And it looks like PrinceBuffoon is on his way to get some potions as he just freed that bee from its bottle.
That will definitely be a big help against Cold Stare and anybody else.
And decides to save and quit. I'm wondering if he was considering continuing on to get that blue mail upgrade at that point. But regardless, it looks like PrinceBuffoon is saving and quitting and resuming his game in Link's house.
And is he going back, or is he going to check Swamp? Because Hookshot could be vanilla.
And there's FayteFireix collecting his flippers there from Paradox Cave, and we have PrinceBuffoon now. Looks like he may be making a dive to Swamp, anticipating potentially a very trolly hookshot location in Swamp.
Indeed. So let's see, we are still missing the hookshot, and because Turtle Rock is a crystal dungeon, we are still in need of both rods.
Absolutely. We are still fluteless, but with Meyer being a pendant, flute is not necessarily required, as far as we know right now, for completion of the seed, but who knows?
We shall save it right now. Prince is going into Swamp.
Meanwhile, FayteFireix getting the shovel out of the Super Bunny Cave, and that is another potential location that still remains unchecked as well, with the shovel now in both of our players' possession here.
And Fate is opting to check the first chest of Turtle Rock. We'll see which turns out to be the better bargain. Meanwhile, Prince is only getting 3 bombs as one of his non-dungeon items in Swamp.
Without the hookshot, you'll be happy to get as many of these items in the front portion of Swamp as you can, and that's one of the 6 right there. And FayteFireix getting just a small key in Turtle Rock, so that is all he'll be able to collect at this point. Let's see, looks like he is going to go ahead and progress further with that key. Let's see if there is an item even deeper in Turtle Rock at this point.
Indeed.
But it looks like he is deciding not to tackle the Chain Chomps and will be satisfied with just that for now. Chain Chomps with green mail and 6 hearts. That is quite intimidating. I can't blame FayteFireix for taking the safe route there.
Indeed. And once again, Spike Cave is being left out in the cold.
Spike Cave could absolutely have an item at this point. A seed I commentated yesterday, the Magic Mirror was in Spike Cave, and unfortunately one of the runners forgetting about Spike Cave, leading him to eventually forfeit, which was a very unfortunate occurrence at that time. But meanwhile, PrinceBuffoon is going to go ahead and collect this key with a Hammer Dash before doing the necessary flood work in order to progress.
Indeed. I've done that more than once. Meanwhile, Fate starting with checking Waterfall Cave and going to be getting his grand 40 rupees for his efforts. Let's
see if he follows this up with a mail upgrade. It's certainly available to him. No, he is saving and quitting. That mail upgrade being ignored by both runners. Back to flooding the key. I'm pretty sure that is a rite of passage of your randomizer running, is flooding that Swamp Palace key. I'm pretty sure everyone's done that at least once. Usually one time is all it takes for that never to happen again, though.
Indeed. So now the question is, are they just electing to not get the mail, or have they forgotten the mail?
It is certainly for a very high chance of forgetting being tucked away there on the ledge. But that may be something we may want to ask our runners if they elect to join us for a post-match interview, along with FayteFire's unfortunate chicken hut departure back in the early stages of this race.
Meanwhile, Fate is opting to also check out Swamp. Well, a non-dungeon item, and it's only 5 arrow upgrade capacity, unfortunately.
And without the hookshot, PrinceBuffoon relegating to having to go and ascend up a second time in order to access the right side. Let's see if he's rewarded for a hookshot for all of his trouble here.
Well, Fate going to the digging spot, and well, the ice rod.
Well, that's a huge thing off of his agenda there. That definitely will be needed to defeat Trinex, and a second bottle with a B inside for PrinceBuffoon. Certainly not what he was hoping for in that spot. So there is Swamp done for now, but will absolutely require a second dip in order to get that second red crystal.
Indeed. Oh. Right now, we are still missing quite a few items before we can go mode.
Yep, we may be seeing a Spike Cave check here from PrinceBuffoon, potentially. FayteFireix does have a kind of out-of-the-way item with the Ice Rod in the shovel spot. We'll see if PrinceBuffoon recognizes the shovel is still left to be checked. As long as he doesn't have the flute, he'll always get the chance of being reminded whenever he checks his inventory.
Indeed. Well, we finally are getting that spike. Except he has no... He does have blue potion. Because with that much health, you need the cape in order to survive it.
Yep, you do not have the means of hookshotting with these torches here, and he is going to need to use that cape immediately, and does. And let's see what this Spike Cave has in store.
Fire rod.
So that is both rods being collected between both of our runners. FayteFireix having collected the ice rod just moments previously. Let's see if they have some sort of telepathic link between each other and are able to collect the other rod that the other does not possess.
Hopefully just serendipity for that, but... Oof. So, looks like Prince is not opting to check that shovel spot, which I can hardly blame him, but with our knowledge, he's not going to be able to full clear a crystal turtle rock without it.
I'm wondering. I failed. I'm not sure how many. I know we got at least one of the items out of Skullwoods. I'm not sure that we got both. With that fire rod, it may be that one of the remaining locations in Skullwoods might have that oh-so needed hookshot.
I want to say I think we saw both, and I think it was just the bottle. I think it was like a big 20 or something, not important.
Works for me.
But time will tell, and fortunately / unfortunately, Prince is opting to check Turtle Rock, which he now can get all the way across, except he's not going to be able to beat Trinex. And, oof. Barely the squirrel is in the right position to let him through.
PrinceBuffoon definitely reading the signs that the seed is giving him and using that fire rod to go ahead and take his first steps into Turtle Rock. It will be a double dip, however, as we do know that the ice rod is not here. It is in the shovel spot.
Indeed. So let's go over things while we have a moment. So we've not checked. We obviously can't check anything in the Mire locations because we're still missing the flute.
Mm-hmm.
There's still the remaining chests in Turtle Rock, other than that one, which was just the small key.
Mm-hmm.
There's the chests in the back of Swamp.
Yep,
There's
which
whatever's
are
on Cold Stare.
Mm-hmm. Cold Stare could be huge. Or it could be completely irrelevant, such as the way of Rando. PrinceBuffoon having an opportunity to get that Cold Stare item, but understandably falling to Cold Stare with just the green mail. And PrinceBuffoon is going to have to go the long way around at this point, missing the chance to light that torch.
Well, even with it, he doesn't have hook shot, so he can't do the quick escape.
Ah, that is a very fair point.
Instead, we get a little Kipo dance from the Moogle. And an easy slot into the roller room. Not opting to use the remaining magic on the cape, and instead gets a heart piece and the compass.
Electing to mirror out rather than having to deal with the rollers on the back end, which completely understandable. And we'll have PrinceBuffoon now. He will be proceeding on towards the Chain Chomp room and beyond.
And there is one other place that we haven't seen yet. Nobody sent a ped check.
Indeed not.
It can't be the flute, obviously, since Mire is a pendant chest. But if I recall the logic correctly, since you have the boots, I do think Mire is in logic. Meanwhile, Prince deftly avoids the chain chomps to be able to get through the room in time.
Meanwhile, FayteFireix disappointed by the contents of the left side of Swamp Palace.
Mirroring out, is he going to be doing a Ice Palace check? Nope. Going north. Meanwhile, he is going to be checking the big key chest. Here's the big key.
And yet another vanilla big key. Ice Palace being such, Turtle Rock following suit with that little trait as well. And we have PrinceBuffoon now will be on his way to the back half of Skullwoods. and make sure he see if he remembers to give mimics a peek as well en route to the secondary part of this dungeon.
Meanwhile, Fate opts not to punish the little boy for giving him 20 rupees for showing him the beat. Double checking his locations.
Yep, taking stock of the dungeons at this point, and with that knowledge, it looks like he will be mirroring back to the light world and see where he elects to go. Looks like he is mirrored just so he could save and quit. So with Aghanim defeated, saving and quitting in the dark world will just put you right back on top of the pyramid.
Indeed. Well, Prince is checking Mimic. Getting the mimics to move with him. And for his efforts, he's going to find Butter Sword.
Go one den sword for PrinceBuffoon. So that rounds out the swords, and that will trivialize the Ganon fight even further, and make any of the other boss fights, particularly Cold Stare, wink wink, a little bit more suitable for PrinceBuffoon's tastes.
Not an unwelcome sight, but not the item they're immediately hoping for. Meanwhile, the big key chest gives you a small key.
Meanwhile, FayteFireix is making his initial descent down Ice Palace. And like we mentioned earlier, if he is able to get this done in one go, that will be a little bit of a gain that FayteFireix will have over Prince. Meanwhile, Prince is taking an unfortunate death there in that room. He will be able to warp back just a few rooms back, seeing as he re-entered Turtle Rock here, but still a death you'd rather not have at this point.
No, yeah, that is one of the better places to die in Turtle Rock, but it's not a place you want to die in Turtle Rock.
And once again, Prince is going to be running into the laser bridge here, going to collect what he can, but Trinex will not be able to be defeated here, as the Ice Rod, unfortunately for PrinceBuffoon, is not going to be found here. So,
meanwhile, excellent boots plus boomerang strats to get over the roller this time. Good job.
And Prince utilizing the very last Cana Samaria charge available to him, I do believe, with his magic at his current state. Luckily, that should be all he needs, and he will pick up the full magic and the 2 hearts here over on the right side of this room.
Good idea. While Fate goes ever deeper into Ice Palace. And what will Laser Bridge hold today?
There's some armor.
Definitely a sight for sore eyes. Heart piece. $20.
And Prince is hoping that this is an Ice Rod coming up. He will unfortunately be disappointed to find that that is not the case.
It is instead final small key, which makes perfect sense because you need that to get to Trinex.
Yep. Certainly cannot fault Prince for making the TR gamble with getting that Fire Rod, but unfortunately it will not pay out the dividends he was looking for. Meanwhile, we see FayteFireix attempting the IPBJ that PrinceBuffoon was not able to complete with his health situation at this point in his Ice Palace. And there we go. Very nicely done by FayteFireix.
And bonking to get across the gap and easily clears the fire bar. Wow. We're hoping Prince goes to that dig spot, but I'm not 100% certain that's where he's going. Excellent bomb strats by Fate.
Prince re-entering the war point nearest between Thieves Town and Swamp. Let's see where he decides to go from here. It looks like he will be going to Swamp and potentially getting all that there is to collect here.
Yep, checking Skull Woods. Now the question is...
Skull, excuse me. Thank you.
Fine. Now the question is he going to check PED? Because we have not had a PED check yet by either of our runners. Which it looks I'd presume he would check Ped before doing a blind Mothula fight, but we shall see. Stranger things.
Absolutely.
At least gonna have to pop it open in order to have enough room to get over it.
So this would imply to me that, assuming our PrinceBuffoon has kept count, that there is still one item left in here. Otherwise, this would be a rather ambitious play.
I thought by my original count, all the items already have been found, but I could be wrong. Probably am wrong.
I'm just going based on the runner's actions here. I certainly don't know one way or the other at this point. He is mirroring out. Let's see if he will proceed on to Mothula at this point, collecting one of those non-green pendants.
Dude, this could potentially be a play of the game if this turns out to be a very important item. Or a required pet.
Yep. Will this be revealed here from PrinceBuffoon in Skullwoods, or will FayteFireix successfully defeat Cold Stare and reveal a key item there? Time shall tell.
Indeed. Now, with that blue mail and butter sword, this should be a much easier food.
Yep, I believe the Butter Sword holds no advantage versus the Tempered Sword as far as the Mothula fight is concerned, but still, nice work by PrinceBuffoon taking care of Mothula in no time at all. And there is the big key, so maybe it looks like they'll have to unearth the contents of the big key chest in order to finally get this Skullwood check done and dusted.
Indeed. So, will we finally get a pet check?
It looks like we are. So here we go, chat. You got your Aga. Let's see if we get your Ped to complete this combo platter. And it's the Bloomerang.
Womp womp, Ped dead.
Long live Ped.
Still doesn't necessarily mean we might not go to a pendant dungeon, but it can't even check it without the flute.
Yeah, really the flute or hookshot is what our runners are in search for at this point.
Yes, if you're just joining us, both of our runners started pretty quick with bow and silvers within the first 10 minutes. Started with somewhat similar paths. Right now they're a little bit divergent, but right now we are looking for the hook shot to fully get us into go mode. They have found either of the rods, but neither has found both.
Yep, and PrinceBuffoon deciding not to dash to make this long jump a little easier to complete, but just getting a piece of heart. So that increases the chances that FayteFireix is maybe that much closer to getting something rather juicy out of Cold Stare. And long time since I've seen this fairy room in Ice Palace, but FayteFireix using it to give himself a little bit of a leg up on the Cold Stare fight.
Indeed, since he is going to be doing it with green mail. And I don't think he has ever gotten a potion from anybody. Meanwhile, it looks like Prince might be going to double dip Ice Palace with much easier time with Cold Stare, hopefully with that blue mail.
So both runners still on 4 crystals. They've been on 4 crystals for quite some time now. And let's see if FayteFireix can obtain his 5th here with a Cold Stare defeat.
Was able to rope-a-dope them for a little bit, but not a whole lot. Let's see how well Fate does. He is getting hit by those ice. One hit from Cold Stare and he's dead!
Oh!
Oh, Fate.
So any advantage Fate might have gained by felling Cold Stare has been lost, and PrinceBuffoon now, with that death, will take a significant lead now, and FayteFireix now lacking the magic to even use the Bombos for a single time here. A major setback for FayteFireix.
Oh, indeed.
The lack of bottles and the lack of an armor upgrade clearly coming into play here for both runners.
Indeed. And still no blue mail. It's right up there. Instead, opting to fill that bottle with a blue potion, no doubt. Probably a second one to restock himself.
I'll be very curious to see if FayteFireix recalls that blue mail. At this point, I'm going to take the cynical route and assume that he has forgotten at this point, and picking up just a magic pot to top off his magic, and now with the open bottle, getting that blue pot.
Oh, it is a savings if you get speak to the witch's assistant, so that is a shrewd move.
Meanwhile, PrinceBuffoon, it's basically like your go-moding Ice Palace, unfortunately by means of a double dip, but still got to be a decent feeling all the same to get down here with relative speed as he is.
Indeed. Well, Fate is going to take 2 Cold Stare, it seems. Let's see, I would have to think Cold Stare either has the hook shot or the flute. The item loadout we have, I think that has to be the only option.
And without a full magic bar, PrinceBuffoon is relegated to using the Bombos to reveal Cold Stare on this rematch. We'll see if he uses the Fire Rod. It looks like he will be utilizing this Fire Rod along with the Gold Sword. Should be making very short work of Cold Stare. Probably not even giving out of the corner, and he does not. Yeah, down goes Cold Stare. Yes, indeed.
Is a red potion.
So that... Wow. I'm honestly at a loss at this point. Where could this desperate progression item be located at this juncture?
Oh boy, I'm personally at a loss myself.
Because all the pendant dungeons that are available to him have been cleared. It may indeed, chat is thinking that it is Trinex, and honestly, I'm outside of that. That might be the last resort. PrinceBuffoon, let's see if he recalls that he has to check the dig spot. It certainly looks like he is en route towards it.
Indeed, at this rate, I think it is the only option left. After you have both rods, of course.
Pedestal is indeed open, but we do know that it is just the Bloomerang, so Pedestal not going to be the saving grace for our 2 runners here.
Luckily for Buffoon, he is getting that Ice Rod and probably saving and quitting. Yep, saving and quitting.
Very nice restraint from PrinceBuffoon, holding back on some frustration slashes there. I gotta give him a lot of credit for that.
Well, he did murder it.
Yeah, I guess he got all of his rage out earlier, but still, that Ice Rod location would certainly elicit some slashes from me for whatever that may be worth.
Oh, absolutely. Wow. Fate is taking a bit of damage going down.
Yep. Fate is still just on green mail, so with a blue potion, however, but still definitely expending more health than would be preferred for an upcoming Cold Stare rematch. Let's see if he dives back into that fairy room as well.
Surprising. Meanwhile, the rocks are still being so rude. So very rude.
Yes, I agree with KGB in the chat. If anything, if these runners elect to have a post-game interview, I would love to see how much pent-up rage is within them. I hope they don't take it out on us if they do give us the benefit of an interview. I would certainly not fault them for doing so.
Hopefully not, but we shall see. Meanwhile, yes, Fate is definitely going down into the ferry room, which is a very good move.
Reading the chat here, it's really will it be flute or will it be hookshot on Trinex? I'm sure that we're hoping that it's the hookshot to get on with this, but it could very well be flute just to delay progression that much more.
Indeed.
And our tracker wisely also noting that for further fun, it could be the powder, which would lead to the magic bat, which would hopefully then lead to our progression. Any number of crazy ways this could go.
Indeed, but right now all roads lead to Trinex.
Well, we have FayteFireix heading into round 2 with Trinex, or excuse me, Cold Stare, getting my bosses mixed up.
And unfortunately is not able to rope-a-dope him. And is getting bodied a bit. One more hit will kill him.
Yeah, one more hug. Let's see. It looks like FayteFireix recognizing that and will go ahead and top off his health. Let's see if that's all that he'll need to complete this.
One boss that you can't use one of the bosses you can't use silvers on.
Yep, turns out Error's not that effective against a collection of soap suds.
Weird. He does get one eye down.
Some nicely positioned spin slashes here, mostly avoiding ice. Getting a hug. He is down to one hit.
This is really close for comfort, folks.
There's part 2 of Cold Stare failed. See if he can take care of the final one. And down it goes. A sigh of relief, no doubt, coming from FayteFireix, followed by some frustration with that red potion bottle. Meanwhile, PrinceBuffoon electing to go ahead and get the safety exit. So if he indeed falls to Trinex, he will not have too much of downtime to re-enter the arena.
Indeed, a shrewd move.
Nice key dash there as well.
Indeed. Meanwhile, Fate, like his competitor, kind of at a loss for trying to figure out his next move.
Reciprocal to PrinceBuffoon, he is looking for a fire rod at this point, and refresh my memory, I forget where that was located.
Fire rod. We've had so many.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that. It looks like yeah, I'm at a loss as to where that was. Spike Cave, yes, thank you.
Our tracker did not forget. Thank you, Itaka.
Appreciate the assist as always.
Oh. Fate opting to do the Pyramid Fairy, except he doesn't have the crystal because that is still Swamp Balance. As he is seeing right now. And it is the hook shot.
The hook shot from Trinex, that is the progression we have been desperately looking for about an hour. It looks like FayteFireix may be at his wit's end at this point, trying to recall where he might have missed at this point. Little does he know that Spike Cave provides the much-needed relief he needs to allow him to defeat Trinex and progress in Turtle Rock. And he may be on his way there, seeing that as he is warped to the old man.
Meanwhile, Prince opting to leave this is go mode for him, so opting not to check the rest of Hookshot Game.
Yes, go mode being achieved. It only took about 113 minutes to do so. This seed being quite rude. That is certainly understandable, taking this long to achieve go mode, given the way that these items were distributed in the manner they were.
Meanwhile, the good news is it seems like Fate has remembered that he does need to check Spike Cave. The bad news is he is a bit behind.
Yep, and PrinceBuffoon will just be heading straight for the back of Swamp Palace at this point, seeing as both of our runners have collected everything but the back half. So once again, PrinceBuffoon will this time legitimately be go-moding Swamp Palace, although in the form of a double dip.
Not that way, Fate. Where are you going, Fate?
Oh, Fate may be taking a peek in the first Turtle Rock chest, maybe. I'm not sure. Or maybe, no?
If I recall correctly, I think the first chest was just a big 20.
Either that or a small key. I don't recall which, but it was certainly nothing of value. It looks like FayteFireix just utilizing that to warp to the Dark World. Maybe he's going to clear out Hookshot Cave now. Or how can he? You're just going to check the first chest, perhaps, with a form of strategic bonking. It will not, unfortunately, be what he's looking for, though. And that blue jelly is certainly gatekeeping that chest.
Well, Prince is going deeper and deeper into Swamp Palace, and Fate getting disappointment.
Fate checking every single one-off location except the one that has what he's looking for. Checking the bonking over to the first Hookshot Cave chest, and now presumably checking the single chest, or actually no, he's progressing further in Turtle Rock, excuse me. He has already checked that first chest, getting just a small key. He is going to take that as a sign of progressing further into Turtle Rock. Little does he know that he is just on the doorstep of the item location where he wants to go in Spike Cave, but he is going to read the tea leaves of the seed as interpreting that to go further into Turtle Rock, and unfortunately it is not going to pay off, at least immediately, for him.
Not today, no.
We have PrinceBuffoon. Looks like he did achieve at least one poke of one of those, but we will not be seeing a zero-cycle Argus, understandably, as that is an incredibly hard thing to accomplish, and looks like with that golden sword, we'll be dispatching Argus in no time at all. And a very nice use of the Fire Rod and a Spin Slash, using that over his Silver Arrows to take care of the second phase of Argus and get his second to last crystal. Or is... No, excuse me, that is his final crystal. I obviously missed that day in kindergarten where we learned how to count.
No, you're fine, CD. You're just fine.
If you say so.
That does mean that we are now heading to Cannon's Tower. And you know what that means. Indeed.
Get your guesses in. Any number between 1 and 22 for which chest will contain that big key in the order in which PrinceBuffoon elects to collect them. For the sake of this seed, I certainly hope this seed shows some mercy and it's one of the early chests, but given the character of this seed thus far, it could be in the tile room for all we know.
It certainly could. Meanwhile, Fate is going deeper and deeper into Turtle Rock, and he's not going to find what he's looking for.
Meanwhile, PrinceBuffoon is just a couple of Lionels away from entering Ganon's tower, just before hitting that 2-hour mark.
Now, let's see where it is. I'm at the rate this seed is gone, I'm thinking it's one of the 3 art.
PrinceBuffoon going to go down the right side first. Let's see if there's a small key in one of these chests which would open the door to a right side reveal, and there certainly is.
Meanwhile, Fate getting the good news, bad news of the golden sword.
And it looks like PrinceBuffoon is going to go through the right side, skipping past that tile room, where we can only hope that he did not just pass where that key is located.
Indeed.
And despite that death, FayteFireix is continuing on Turtle Rock at this point, desperately hoping for an Ice Rod here, but or Fire Rod rather, pardon me. But unfortunately, will be disappointed in the upcoming reveals.
Sorely disappointed. Meanwhile, 3 bombs. His heart. 20 rupees. 20 rupees.
And electing not to complete the right side and encounter the Armos Knights, going to go ahead and begin the left side.
And just 3 rupees on the lamp there. Remember to grab that small key from that skull. That handy dandy hook shot. A lot easier. Small key. 50. Big key.
And there's the big key there. And interesting to note that the stun reward in this seed is a full magic pot as well. But regardless, PrinceBuffoon now will begin his ascension to Ganon's tower and a merciful end to the seed as well.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the only good thing Fate is going to find here is that small key and that blue mail. Well, PrinceBuffoon at about 2 hours is hitting the gauntlet. And for this sprite, the blue mail makes him green. Okay. And it seems like, unfortunately, Fate is at a lot. Hopefully, he remembers that Spike Cave is where he needs to go.
Absolutely. Looking at his map, just going over in his mind where he could possibly go at this point. Not many options at this point. Hopefully, Spike Cave crosses his mind.
Indeed.
But without the flute, he will be relegated to saving and quitting at this point, and who knows if he will be going back to Death Mountain anytime soon.
Certainly not right now, unfortunately. No, luckily without the flute, very much limits where he can go.
Indeed.
But unless he's using a tracker with the locations, he might just be going for rechecks.
And just that close from a one cycle. Just one more sword hit, though, from the golden sword, and down goes Landmo 2. Yes, and congratulations to Levi Derp for correctly guessing the appropriate number, and he gets 2 win for his accurate guess. So congratulations to Levi Derp. Ooh, PrinceBuffoon electing to, or maybe he was just on his way through the door before getting that fairy.
Fate checking Peg Cave and going to be pointed.
Yep, at this point, any item location check that does not result is only just going to make you that much more frustrated.
I get the feeling he is unfortunately at a loss. While Prince is about to do his Moldorm fight.
Yep, and if I'm remembering correctly, this is going to make 2 seeds in a row that I have had the privilege of commentating where a Spike Cave stumps one of the runners. My apologies in advance, FayteFireix. I hate to have brought my curse along to you, I'm afraid.
Meanwhile, Prince barely avoids getting bodied off of the ledge. Looked like he was thinking of hovering, it's not to, and gets a piece of heart in the final chest.
So that does it for items for PrinceBuffoon, presumably. Now he's just on 5.5 hearts here, without the magic powder to be able to make some fairies out of those anti-fairies and bunny portals there. So we'll see if that causes any difficulty for his Agatu and Ganon fights.
While Fate took a breather, and
would have been a nice double for PrinceBuffoon had Aghanim complied. That's hit 3 and 4. There's a good double for PrinceBuffoon.
And 5, and could have had a 6 if he did get bodied. There's the last hit.
And down goes the Geometry Wizard, PrinceBuffoon defeating Agatu, and will be in flight towards the pyramid here. And let's see if he goes ahead and takes a dive with just 2.5 hearts, or if he decides to defer to getting the fairy prior to making the dip to Ganon.
I would hope he would do that, but we shall see. Meanwhile, Fate finding that extra bottle. Maybe you show for it.
Prince taking the dive, maybe feeling the pressure, maybe thinking he is needing to save some time here. Little does he know how far ahead he is, but we'll see if he can pull this off. He does have the golden sword and silver, so it will just take 6 slashes to advance each phase of this fight.
Indeed. So far as hook strats are sound. And oh!
The very last possible fire bat spells PrinceBuffoon's doom, and it will allow him to have a little bit more health now, and so he'll be diving right back in for round 2.
Skipping the fairy again. Again, he's probably feeling that pressure, knowing it's 2 hours.
Hopefully that death there doesn't rattle him.
Meanwhile, Fate, unfortunately, also nope. He realized that final chest is only a dungeon item, but he's still stumped. Oof. The good news is he missed the bad. The bad news is he...
Meanwhile, PrinceBuffoon down to yet another hit now. He needs to dodge these fire bats once again. And does so, but the fire bat is swirling around. Let's hope it doesn't find him. Oh, very close. PrinceBuffoon just evading those flames.
Oh, he's starting phase 3. This is going to be close.
So assuming he's able to swipe Ganon before he can send out more fire bats, the most threatening parts of the fight should be done with here. Let's see if he can... take care of this without any further difficulty. Ganon asking if they found the arrows, and an immediate response with an arrow right in Ganon's face.
Indeed. Looks like he did get the torch glitch, which will definitely help.
There's hit number 2 of 4. Oh, be careful. Nope. And just avoiding a hit there, and missing a couple of arrow shots there. So still on 2 hits. There's hit number 3. Ooh. And PrinceBuffoon making this as suspenseful as possible, using the fire rod there.
Indeed. Oh, just barely avoided it and should get the final hit. And he
down goes Ganon. PrinceBuffoon will be completing the seed once and for all. I'm sure not a moment too soon for PrinceBuffoon. He will take this match and improve to 1-1 in his tournament, finishing with an official speed racing TV time of 2 hours, 9 minutes, and 43 seconds. GG's to PrinceBuffoon.
Yep, get them in chat, folks. Excellent work. Meanwhile, the good news is it seems like Fate is finally remembering to check a Spike Cave, but it's unfortunately just as Prince gets the W. Meanwhile, you'll be seeing if Prince will be joining us in chat.
I'm trying to make those arrangements at this very moment.
Meanwhile, Fate does finally find the fire rod and all of takes the intentional death. And dying in the light world to back to Death Mountain.
Yep, I'm trying to contact PrinceBuffoon via the Discord, but not having much luck so far. So may be a little bit if we ever do get an interview out of our victor, PrinceBuffoon.
Hopefully. While Fate is getting his ascension into Turtle Rock, where beating Trinex will get him the hook shot, which will lead him to Swamp Palace, which will lead him to Ganon's Tower. Should have expected nothing less from the quote for the Witch's Hut.
Yep, a little bit of 90s nostalgia there. Fitting for a game released in 1991.
Weird.
Meanwhile, is FayteFireix on his way to... No, he is still passing by Spike Cave.
No, he went there. He got it.
Oh, he did. Excuse me. I was too busy setting up an interview to realize to the contrary. Good job by FayteFireix in figuring that out. And honestly, FayteFireix has the race room available. He certainly will be aware that he will not be taking the victory here, but still trudging on and trying to complete this seed, which all this respect in the world, I would...
Absolutely.
It would be very tempting for me to throw down my gamepad in disgust with that finish. And, well, it looked like maybe he was going to stop, but it looks like FayteFireix is going to trudge on there into Turtle Rock. So while we're watching FayteFireix complete his seed, let's see if we can't try and recap or summarize the many intricacies of the seed. First of all, it was an early silver arrows for our runners, collecting both the bow and the silver arrows in tandem in the Hyrule escape sequence. Now, despite that early gift from the seed decided to become Dr. Hyde to Mr. Jekyll there and require an Aghanim defeat in order to collect the Moon Pearl from the Pyramid Ledge. And that was just the start of the craziness that's the seed had in store for our respective racers.
Indeed.
Following that, we had a hook shot at Trinex, which was not able to be achieved until both rods were collected in the Spike Cave and at the Shovel spot, respectively. And that is that really spelled the difference there. The collection of both of those items by PrinceBuffoon, opening the door for him to complete this in the time that he did.
Indeed. Meanwhile, we do have Buffoon in the waiting room, and now we have him in chat. Congratulations, Buffoon.
Hey, thanks. That was a race.
It certainly was.
Yeah, quite the seed. We were just discussing, kind of going over the seed in general here. Starting out very, very promising with a quick silver arrows in the Hyrule Escape, but immediately turning its cruel head with a required Aghanim to get that Moon Pearl, leading to needing to collect both rods in very out there locations in order to defeat Trinex to get that desperately wanted hook shot.
Yeah, this game's kind of dumb sometimes.
It can be. The logic works, but it's not helpful. So how stressed were you going into that Ganon fight? We noticed you had avoided the ferry a couple of times.
Yeah, my execution was real bad today. I started getting tilted really early when I missed that fireball on Aghanim. I was like, oh man, what is going on with me today? But I was pretty confident in the Ganon fight. I knew that if I died, I could just jump back down. I was pretty confident with Butter Sword and Silvers. But man, I was really happy to find that blue mail because I was playing so bad today.
Now, something we wanted to bring up, both of you checked Zora Ledge, and there was an armor upgrade. Did you recall that and just elected to forgo that, or did that pass your mind at any point?
Yeah, I decided to skip it. I didn't feel like it was worth the time that it would take to go get it. And I was just hoping that whole time to find a flute at some point to help me route a little bit more efficiently, but that didn't happen.
The flute is pretty well hidden. Presumably it's one of the chests in Swamp Palace that you passed up, which we presume Fate will be passing up. He actually just beat Turtle Rock.
Oh man.
For the longest time, you each had the opposite rod.
Oh really?
Yes. He finally got his fire rod just as you cleared Ganon.
Oh.
Meanwhile,
I
you
actually
were looking for the ice for quite a bit.
I actually forgot that I didn't check shovel. And after I cleared ice, I was like, oh right, shovel. That whole thing.
Yeah, that was the benefit, because you at least have that stark reminder because it's always on your item list. But
right.
If you don't remember to check, Spike Cave, it's only on your memory to remember tracker.
Yeah.
Oh. Certainly a weight off your shoulders to get this seat in your rearview mirror for sure, and with a victory at no less as well. Congratulations once again.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It feels good to get into 1-1 now. I made a pretty big mistake in my first race, and this one wasn't much better, but it was better slightly.
All that matters is that W.
Yeah.
But yep. So 1-1, still plenty alive to make the bracket stage. Still 5 more races left in the East with stage.
hopefully my my nerves will settle as we keep going through this tournament.
Absolutely. So, well, certainly getting a win under your belt should do wonders in your confidence level there, especially getting a victory with the seed as out there as this was. Yeah, that definitely, it's very nice. I can attest to that. It's nice to get off the schneid after a week 1 loss.
And I don't feel too awful about my time. Definitely could have been better, but could have been a lot worse too.
I mean, it could have been, but I mean, there were multiple double dips, several required double dips. So
yeah,
there's only really so much you can do in a seed like this.
It's true. Only thing that could have helped is if I had the spoiler and knew where I was supposed to go.
Which, nope, that is a huge no-no.
Yeah.
Might be a little bit of a problem. But,
yeah, slightly.
But no, again, congratulations on the W. This was a difficult seed to deal with, and you did handle it to the best of your ability to get that W.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Welcome. Any final thoughts?
Just want to wish my opponent Fate best of luck with the rest of the tournament, and thanks so much for the commentary. I'm definitely going to go back and watch the VOD of this race, see how this all went.
Indeed. Well.
Thanks so much for joining us, PrinceBuffoon. You're welcome to just hang out and wait for FayteFireix to finish. But I would completely understand you wanting to get out of here after that rather chore of a seed that you just completed there with a game time of 2 hours and 6 minutes and 50 seconds, judging by the final screen there. So once again, congratulations and a job well done.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Have a good rest of your night.
You too. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Meanwhile, Fate was checking some of the additional chests in Swamp, and he did find the big key, but that's been about it. So if the flute is in the seed, it is hidden behind the big key chest.
Absolutely. And once again, if FayteFireix is in fact aware of the results of this race, I have to all the respect to FayteFireix for taking the time to go ahead and finish this seed. We will certainly see if we can't get to an interview from him as well as soon as he completes his Ganon's Tower and Ganon as well. So once again, all of the respect to FayteFireix for finishing this out like a trooper.
Indeed. Getting that 30 hundo from Argus and that final crystal. And our tracker reminding us that it is still true that there are a couple of spots in GT that were never checked, so food could have been in there too.
Most certainly, I believe 9 locations. The big GT Big Key stat was 9 of 22 for PrinceBuffoon. So yeah, that definitely opens the door for any number of locations that the flute and any other stragglers could be at, such as Burna, Powder, any number of things.
Mm-hmm. Is making his ascent though. Will be soon.
And if any participants in this tournament are still with us, we do have the final race of week 2 currently underway. That was between Rainbow Poogle and Ralph Is My Name. That is not being restreamed, however, so we will not get the benefit of being able to watch the cap of week 2. And shortly thereafter, the conclusion of week 2, once all scores and results are submitted to the challenge page, our week 3 assignments will then follow. Probably occur sometime in the wee hours here in the Americas, but if anyone's still watching us, our week 3 assignments are nigh upon us.
Indeed. We'll be getting deeper and deeper into Swiss mode again. With the sheer volume of competitors we have in this tournament, there will be 7 rounds of Swiss before we hit the bracket stage of the tournament.
Indeed. With week 2 concluded, assuming there were no dropouts, which I believe actually is not the case if I remember from the challenge page, but assuming an ideal participation, after the conclusion of week 2, we will have 128 people at 2-0, and on the opposite end, 128 people at 0-2, with the remaining 256 sporting a 500 record of 1-1. So even though FayteFireix may not be too pleased at going 0-2, he has 127 other participants in a similar state. So he is certainly not alone in being without a win at this point.
Indeed. And my memory serves me correct. Obviously, all of the 7-0 victors will make it into the bracket stage. I believe all of the 6-1s will also make it into the bracket stage. I think all the 5-2s, and then potentially some of the 4-3s. It really depends on how many people we still have in the tournament.
Yes, potentially. Again, assuming ideal participation, at the conclusion of week 7, you will have 4 very skilled runners undefeated at 7-0, a collection of 28 runners that will only end this tournament with just 1 loss, and another 84 at a record of 5-2. So that totals up to 114 runners that will qualify at 4-2. And I do believe that there are 12 runners that have automatically qualified for the bracket stage, based on their or 14 maybe. I'm trying to add in my head and obviously failing, but the combination of 5-2s and up with some auto qualifiers should round out the 128 that will take part in the second phase of the tournament bracket.
Indeed, some returning champions and other racers have gotten that auto qualify, but still plenty of racing to be held to determine who gets into the bracket stage.
And a litany of very talented runners that are not all auto-qualified and are having to go through the Swiss stage. A true murderer's row of people as soon as we get to 5-2 or to week 6 with runners with just 1 loss or fewer on their ledger for sure.
Meanwhile, Fate has very quickly found the big key and is making his way up the gauntlet, but with worryingly low health.
I believe it will be best of 1 for the early phases of the tournament. I'm not sure when it will go to a best of 3, probably in the quarters, if I'm assuming. I don't have the tournament document in front of me that would answer that question, but for the early phases of the bracket, it will be a best of 1. I know that for sure.
All of the, I double-checked the tournament doc. All bracket stage matches are best of 3.
I stand corrected. Thanks for setting me straight there.
Yes, all Swiss rounds are best of 1, and then bracket stage is best of 3. Of course, I don't remember if the tournament doc was edited prior or after we had such an amazing turnout, so it might be that some of the stages are single elimination, so don't fully quote me on it.
No, and for the time being, I will certainly defer to you on that. Regardless, no matter how the tournament is decided, we have a litany of Randomizer left in store. Just 5 weeks of Swiss stage, but this bracket phase will continue well into the months of the summer, to be sure.
Indeed. There will be 1 week of 1 week off because we do have Summer Games Done Quick coming shortly upon us.
Yes, that will be a much-needed respite in this Randomizer tournament, to be sure. But outside of that, it's going to be all rando all the time until this field of 512 is whittled down to just a single champion.
Indeed, make sure to stay up to date by checking the challenge channel. And, there will be plenty of races for you to check out throughout the coming weeks. Fate is able to one-cycle the Landmo 2.
Very impressive one cycle from FayteFireix. Very nicely done. That's hopefully he can use that as a consolation. Take that as a positive from this race result. Very nicely done from FayteFireix.
Also has got some health, so looking out quite a bit with the health drops.
And for a brief moment there, you had about a 15 to 20 second lead on me as I was watching the Twitch channel and not the Restreamer channel. So whoopsie on that one.
It certainly happens. Yeah, it stinks when it happens, like, because it ultimately just turned out to be a place you'd forgotten to check. You know, there were some other things that had happened, but ultimately it was just didn't make it to the Spike Cave in time.
Yep, Spike Cave tends to be one of those locations that can be easily forgotten. I usually try to make it a priority to at least have it in the back of my mind whenever I'm doing Dark World Death Mountain. Of course, you would obviously need to have some items to facilitate a check all the way in the back of Spike Cave. And there down goes FayteFireix. Muldorm getting his revenge with a temporary setback for FayteFireix. Let's see if round 2 offers a better result for him.
Hopefully a little bit. But yeah, it's like entrance randomizer and not checking secret shop in the Dark World as Fate takes a second fall.
Oh god, entrance randomizer, that is a rabbit hole. I don't see myself going down anytime soon. Just the items is enough for me, thank you very much.
No. I'm just commentating on the 2v2 tournament that's taking place and it's just about done. Meanwhile,
excellent.
Fate is able to do the third time this charm, and we'll check the final chest to only get that piece of heart, but he does get enough pieces of heart to get a health upgrade.
Very nicely, well-timed full heart container required from FayteFireix from that 4th heart piece, and he is just a couple of rooms away from Agatu and Ganon as well.
Indeed, he will be done shortly.
And a very nice possible triple there. I'm not sure if all 3 of those hits counted, but either way, very nicely manipulated from FayteFireix there on that first cycle.
Excellent work. One of the balls went through Aghanim, but unfortunately, you have to slash it through him.
There. Speaking for myself, there's very little more frustrating than having some out-of-sync Aghanim clones that are literally prevent you from being able to hit as many into the real Aghanim as possible. But no matter for FayteFireix, down goes Agatu at the 2-hour, 32-minute mark for FayteFireix, and he will be en route to Ganon right away.
Indeed, hopefully this will be a merciful fight for him, and he will shortly be done. Good luck to Fate as we have our final Ganon fight.
Yes, indeed. One of the last few Ganon fights of this week of Link to the Past Randomizer Tournament.
Golden Sword definitely helping out. Oh, he's getting bodied a little bit.
Ooh, that's a lot of hits. Nice use of the hook shot to get some iframes in there.
Opting not to cape. And getting pinged price.
FayteFireix echoing PrinceBuffoon's Ganon experience here with an untimely death, despite having a little bit more health in that first attempt. Let's see if a second attempt is all that FayteFireix will need to get this done.
Hopefully. It's got to be disheartening.
Ooh, just barely avoiding a hit from Ganon there. And on to phase 2.
Oh,
Or
no.
excuse me, no.
Got bodied again.
If you're gonna get hit from Ganon, get hit by anything but Ganon proper. Ganon does hits like a truck.
Good news is he missed the bats. The bad news is he didn't hit him enough.
Electing to use some of those magic here with the strategic use of that cape. He needs to be careful, though, not to use too much of it. Looks like he's holding the wall to stop the magic from depleting.
Lots of bats, and lucky for him that he wasn't in the hitbox that fire. Third slash, and then one more slash for phase 4.
And honestly, unless this were a key sanity seed, I'm not sure how you wouldn't find those arrows in Hyrule Castle. But in any case, FayteFireix using those arrows right now, that is hit number 1, hit number 2 forthcoming.
Yep, since he was already frozen, did get it. Oh, and got a nice extra splash.
And just missing the double, but getting Ganon quickly for hit number 4. And FayteFireix will, at long last, be completing this seed, albeit in a losing effort, finishing with an official speed racing TV time of 2 hours, 35 minutes, 27 seconds. GG's to FayteFireix 9. I will see if FayteFireix elects to join us for an interview as well.
Indeed. I would not blame him if he just wants to be done. But we shall see momentarily. Get those GGs in chat. He earned that victory.
Absolutely. And once again, I know I've said this, I don't wish to belabor the point, but all the respect in the world for FayteFireix for going ahead and seeing this to completion as well. So congratulations to FayteFireix for completing this rather burden of a seed. And it looks like FayteFireix will be joining us now. FayteFireix, congratulations on at the very least completing this hellacious seed, albeit in a losing effort, but all the respect in the world for seeing this one out to its full finish. And GG's for your completion.
Thank you.
So, Spike Cave.
Sorry, what was that?
Spike Cave.
Yeah. Simplest answer, mistakes were most definitely made.
It happens. It happens.
Especially after I found out I marked my tracker wrong, which then made me think I marked dungeons wrong, so that was dipping in and seeing what items I had.
That's right.
Fun times.
Yeah, that is now that is also an error that I was just mentioning previously. The previous race I commentated also had a runner flummoxed by the Spike Cave, it ultimately leading him to forfeit before actually finding the mirror in that seed. You eventually did have that epiphany, but in our post-match interview, he also let us know that he identified the dungeons incorrectly as well. So a little bit of echoing there. Apologies for bringing that upon you.
Oh no, I know better next time. Slow down on the map checks, you know. Absolutely.
But for a good chunk of the race, you guys were neck and neck. At one point, you had ice rod, he had fire, and it was just a matter of finding the opposite rods to get into go mode. Well,
and the shovel definitely led straight to ice rod.
For you, it did. For Prince, he took a while.
Oh. I don't feel as bad then.
Right. Luckily, since neither of you found the flute, it was still on the menu, but it took him quite a bit of time before he ended up checking it.
Wait, you said he got flute?
No, he did not get flute.
Oh.
So this shovel is always on your menu, so you can always see
it. Gotcha.
Yeah, he had the benefit of getting that reminder of the shovel spot anytime he hit the start button, and whether that played a factor or not, we're not 100% sure, but that's certainly something that the shovel spot has over the spike cave as far as jogging the old memory banks.
Well, the spike cave did it because I looked and I was like, oh, I have the cape. Wait a second.
Yep.
That's in logic now. Oh, man.
Yeah. Again,
Always in the last place you look.
Indeed. But certainly congrats and excellent work completing the seat. And again,
Thank you.
That's the beauty of this very huge field. There's still plenty of time to get a shot into the bracket stage. So even at 0-2, you still got quite a good shot.
Yep, there's absolutely nothing saying that you can't roll off 5 in a row here, and that's what it will take to proceed to the bracket phase. But in any case, despite 2 setbacks here, still plenty of randomizer to go. Now, if I may, this seems like an eternity ago, Fate, but take us back to that chicken hut. I noticed that you saved and quit before getting the lamp out of the chicken hut. Can you take us back to that point and what was going through your mind at that point?
So there's a soft lock when you go to pick up the chicken where you can have your hands over your head like you have an item picked up and you can't walk through any of the doors or drop it. So I noticed that, and rather than wait and try and figure it out, it was, nope, I'm out. Next spot.
There it is.
I cannot believe that came into play there, but wow, what an unfortunate turn of events. It didn't really affect you too badly, but that was an immediate divergence that we noticed in the early phases there. So wow, that's what a
good to catch that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that wasn't much time lost because again, for a pretty good amount of time, you guys were neck and neck. So no worries with that.
Well, and I think I got boot shortly after that, so going back to check that and finishing out Kakariko was pretty quick for me.
Indeed. And the seed was definitely no one's friend. Multiple required double dips.
I was feeling great about the early game, though. Like, it was handing stuff to us on a silver platter.
Right. Yeah, bow and silvers within 10 minutes is definitely a good thing to find.
But then green mail cold stare occurs, and small consolation, Fate, you both ended up dying 2 cold stares. So that certainly was not a good feeling, but it was one that was shared by your opponent.
So dying to cold stare made me realize my sprite has blue on the first armor.
Yep.
So I thought I had 2 cold stare hits before I needed the potion, and then I dropped dead.
Oh.
So it was mistakes all around.
Yeah, neither of you opted to go back to Zora Ledge to get the mail upgrade there.
Oh, that's where it was.
Well, that answers our question right there. Yes, we asked PrinceBuffoon. He said he claimed that he was aware and just elected to go without it. Sounds like it skipped your mind, understandably so, being there tucked away there on the Zora Ledge.
Yeah, it was one of those going to Zora, going, oh, that'll be red armor eventually. Don't need it. Let's move on.
Yeah. The other armor upgrade was very deep in the seat. So, again, a difficult race to be sure, but you did your best, and that's all anybody can ask for, and you completed it, and we definitely appreciate you doing that.
Well, we appreciate all the commentators and the trackers and our restreamer for doing all this for us, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Shout-outs to our tracker, Hitaka. Thank you very much once again for your very top-notch tracking work this evening, and as well to our restreamer as well. Thank you very much. And also to my co-commentator, The Lost Carol. Thank you so much for co-commentating this week with me. It was truly an honor and a pleasure to do so.
Dude, thank you very much, Speedy V. And yep, thanks to Hitaka, thanks to Hanson. We appreciate your work.
And any closing thoughts or any final comments from you, Fate?
Nope, except T-Rock is always the answer.
That it is. That it is.
Well, with that, I think that's going to put a close on our randomizer tournament for this evening. This will be the penultimate match of week 2, with the final match probably entering its final phases here off camera. I hope everyone gets ready for week 3. And from me, CDV, and my co-commentator, Lost Carol, thank you so much. Play hard, keep jamming, and we'll see ya.
Good night, Internet.